Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, 42JLA. If you're wondering what that means, 42, well, 42 is the meaning of life, the universe, and everything, according to The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Love that show, movie. And JLA is my initials. My name is Jim. This is my very first YouTube video. I mean, I've posted a couple online before, but not of me actually talking, just things I recorded. Alright, so here goes. I just wanted to share this with the world. I have this written down, so excuse me if I'm looking down like I'm reading, but I'm actually going to be reading something. Alright, so here goes. Okay. So I have something I'd like to share with the world. Something that, for the vast majority of my life, I've kept hidden from everyone. I have only ever shared this with my family and a few close friends. As a matter of fact, when my father used to talk about it, I would flat out deny it ever happened. I would lie and say that he must have imagined it. I don't know why I decided to push this out of my existence, but for some reason I chose to keep my incredible experience to myself. Maybe I thought I'd get picked on in school. Maybe I thought I wasn't worthy of the gift I had received. Maybe I was in denial of what was meant to be. I really have no real excuse to make up. I was very young and insecure about myself. I really didn't know what way to turn. I even went as far as to alter my looks to fit an image of a person that I wasn't in high school. The polar opposite of what I have always thought was my calling, but I ran from it like a cowardly dog. Okay, so here goes. It was a cold winter's morning, that blustery January, about 5 a.m. I would assume. My mother bundled the three of us up, me, my brother Matt, and my sister Chrissy. Hats, mittens, scarves, and yes, even my red rubber boots with the fuzzy insoles to keep my feet warm. I couldn't go without them, with those on. They were my favorite because I loved the little clown face on the side. I had to have those on. We were all bundled up, and we braced ourselves for the cold weather we were about to encounter. Mom grabbed my sister the diaper bag and her purse and lunch bag and told me and Matt to get ready to go. See, she had to go to work, and we had to go to a babysitter. She had to go to work, and we had to go to a babysitter. I was never very fond of going there. Kathy was her name. She was so mean. At least I thought she was at the time. She was always yelling at me and forced me to eat the most nasty food like burnt tomato soup. Yes, burned. Not sure how she managed that, but she would always burn it and make me choke it down. To this day, I can't stomach the thought of tomato soup. Gross. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. We were going to the Sitters because Mom had to work. We piled into the brown woody station wagon, and we were off. It was very snowy and blustery cold that day. I don't think she drove more than 15 or 20 miles per hour the entire 4-mile trip we needed to go. But when she pulled into the driveway of the Sitter's house, she got stuck in the driveway. It was a long driveway into a trailer park, of course. Kathy's house was at the very last trailer in the park. So Mom gathered up my sister in a diaper bag and told us to get out because we were going to have to walk the rest of the way. I suddenly started feeling very sick and very tired. I walked through the knee-deep snow. My legs started feeling like jello. Several times I lost my balance and fell face down in the snow. Mom would yell at me and tell me to get up and stop messing around because she was going to be late for work if I kept up my foolishness. I begged and pleaded with her to carry me because my legs were so weak. I seriously could not even manage to take one more step through the snow. I began to cry, and she picked me up and somehow managed to carry me and my sister the remaining way to the sitter's house, with my brother trotting through the snow behind her. He loved it. I surely wasn't sharing in his enthusiasm for the weather. I was miserable. At 5 years old, I really couldn't explain exactly how I was feeling, but I knew something wasn't quite right. When we got inside, Kathy was waiting up for us in her normal morning attire, a long, grubby white bathrobe, her closed-toed, open-back slippers with a hole in one of the toes, and her hair wild and crazy, sort of like a long version of Don King's hair. She was a sight, that's for sure. She welcomed us in, and then my mom rushed back out to head off to work. Kathy helped us get out of our winter clothes and then had us lay down on the couch. She put my sister in the playpen and made me and Matt sleep on the couch. She had us go back to sleep when we got there because she wasn't about to be bothered by us kids so early every day. Well, that morning, as with most mornings, Matt and I were restless, and we were kicking each other because we were on the couch with my head at one end and his head at the other, our feet at each other's chest. I wasn't comfortable at all, and every move that Matt made was making me miserable. We fought for close to 2 hours trying to fall back to sleep, but it wasn't happening. So finally, around 7:30 that morning, Kathy came out of her bedroom and said, you're not going back to sleep, are you?" We replied, "No." She came out and asked us what we wanted for breakfast. I'm not sure what Matt asked for, but I'm 100% sure what I wanted. Captain Crunch. The original flavor was my favorite. She poured the bowl for me, and then the milk. I remember taking one bite and my stomach started twisting. I asked her if I could go to the bathroom, and she yelled at me to hurry up because my cereal was going to get soggy. I ran in and sat on a toilet. And now this is going to sound extremely gross, but I remember this as vivid as if it were yesterday. I remember looking down into the toilet after I had gone and seeing an almost neon green substance in the water below me. I had never seen anything like that before. It was disgusting. I did my business and then returned back to the kitchen to eat the rest of my breakfast. One more bite and I was running back to the toilet. I did this at least 3 times. On my last trip back to the bathroom, Kathy followed me in and cracked the door open behind me and asked if I was feeling okay. I began to cry and I said no, and she asked if I wanted to lay down again, and I said yes. After I was done in the bathroom, she carried me out to the couch and covered me up with a blanket. Soon after that, I was sound asleep. I don't really recall what happened next, but I do have broken memories. I remember hearing my mom and dad asking me to wake up, asking me if I could hear them. I tried to call out to them that I could indeed hear them, but my body was too weak to even open my eyes or move my mouth to speak. I remember my mom crying and my dad said that they were going to take me to the hospital. I then felt the rumble of the car and I woke up, but only for a moment, just long enough to notice that I was sitting in the front seat between my parents, my head laying on my mom's chest, and then I looked at my feet to check if I had my red rubber boots on. They were there. Couldn't go without them. Then I fell back asleep. Now, the next thing I physically remember is waking up to some strange woman cleaning out my throat with a cotton swab, and I began to gag on it. I heard her say, "Oh my God, he's awake." I looked over, and my mom, who was asleep in the chair beside me in my hospital bed, suddenly sat up, jumped out of her chair, and started hugging me and crying. I looked up and noticed the TV was on, but the station was still not working. So it had the rainbow bars on the screen and the low-tone beep that everyone my age should remember. You know, the rainbow bar screen and that low-tone... Hold on. You know, that screen that came up when the station would go off air at night? The good old days. But that sound and that picture on the screen meant only one thing to me at that time. My favorite show was about to start shortly, Romper Room. I absolutely loved that show. I wasn't exactly sure what had happened, but I sure was excited that I hadn't missed it. I looked at my mom as she hugged me, and I said, "Romper Room's on soon." She laughed and kissed me on my forehead. I remember shortly after the show started, my dad came in and ran over to me and gave me the biggest hug and told me he loved me. He was so happy to see me, and this added to my confusion. Both my parents were crying, and they were just so happy to see me. I really didn't understand what was going on. I turned to them and said, "I saw Jesus, Daddy." "Jesus?" my dad asked. "What do you mean, Jesus?" We went to church and all that, but I mean, we weren't really super religious or anything, but anyway, my dad said, "Jesus? What do you mean, Jesus?" I said, "Yeah, you know the picture at church? He came here and he touched me. He touched me behind my eyes and he told me to go. He said I wasn't done yet." My dad grabbed me and hugged me even tighter this time as he began to cry even more. I really wasn't sure why he was crying, but I was sure that my dad loved me with all his heart. Now, I don't really remember everything that happened in the days and weeks that followed. I remember bits and pieces of it, but the events of that particular day will stay with me forever. I very vividly remember everything from that day. I even remember the image of Jesus touching me and telling me to go. I will never forget that. I didn't see a white light or go down a tunnel like other people with near-death experiences, but I quite vividly recall seeing that man and him resting his hand on my face and the feeling of his index and middle fingers resting on each of my eyes. I very much recall the sound of his gentle, soothing voice as he spoke those words to me. I will never forget. Sorry, it's a little emotional here. Later on, I found out what had happened to me. From what I was told, I had a very serious disease called spinal meningitis. I was in a coma for several hours at the hospital and had a fever of nearly 105. And at that temperature, so I'm told, my blood cells were practically boiling. My body was dying. The doctors even told my parents I was going to die. They didn't have very much faith. They said that on the slim chance that I did survive, I would probably never walk again. I would most likely be mentally retarded, and I would never be able to have children because the disease had damaged my reproductive organs. Well, after 3 weeks in the hospital, I had taught myself how to walk again. I was definitely not retarded, but it would be a long time before I would prove them wrong on all accounts. But at the age of 23, I became a father to my son Gabriel, And then again, at the age of 25, my son Nathan was born. Shortly after getting out of the hospital, I knew that I was supposed to do something. Jesus had told me I wasn't done yet. What could he have meant? It was at that moment I decided that I wanted to tell the world about him. I was going to be a preacher. I went to kindergarten the following year, and I told all my new friends that I wanted to be a preacher when I grew up. They laughed at me, so I decided not to mention that I had saw Jesus and that he had touched me. I let it go. I did not want to be laughed at. Later on in my childhood, I remember my dad telling my story of my sickness and some of my friends, and when he mentioned the part about Jesus, I told everyone he must have imagined me saying that. I denied it. I denied that it had ever happened. In my teenage years, I decided to change everything about myself, my looks, my personality, everything. I started doing drugs and drinking alcohol, even stealing cigarettes from my dad's carton that he kept in the freezer. Sorry about that, Dad. Anyway, I did all of that to distance myself from what I knew in my heart to be my true calling. I was meant to share my story with the world. I was meant to tell people that God is real. I was meant to spread the word. I am by no means a perfect person. I'm far from it, but I want to be a great person. I want to finish up what Jesus had sent me back here to do. What I've known since I was 5 years old. Now I'm almost 37. Well, actually, I am 37 now. When I wrote this, I said that. Okay, now I am 37, and this January 21st will mark 32 years since the day Jesus sent me back. It's about time I tell the world just how much he means to me. It's about time I stop denying it and embrace what I am meant to do. I am not sure about the whole being a preacher or anything like that because I'm terribly nervous at talking in front of people. Public speaking is not my thing. Who knows though, maybe I could learn to overcome that fear, but for now, I know that this is part of what I was meant to do. I have to tell the world God is real and I am proof of his existence. We all are. God loves me so much, he gave me a second chance at life. I feel like I have let him down for far too long. I'm not afraid to tell people anymore. I'm not afraid of what people might think of my story. What better way to share this with the world than by posting a video on YouTube? Please like and share my post if my story has opened your eyes. Thank you.